General Jack Keane. He was Vice Chief of Staff of the United States Army and a 4-star general, and is now Chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. General Keane, great to see you again. What does America actually want from Iran, and why?
Yeah, well, certainly just recently in America, there's been some confusion as to what we're attempting to achieve based on some comments that our special envoy to the Middle East, who's leading negotiations, made. I think the president, he had a meeting yesterday with his entire team and clarified, and he said at that meeting exactly what he said to me down in Florida 4 days prior to the inauguration, that he doesn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and to implement that, he has issued an ultimatum to the Iranians to voluntarily dismantle their entire nuclear enterprise, to include the ballistic missiles to deliver it. In other words, give up the enrichment, destroy the deeply buried centrifuge facilities that they have, and destroy the ballistic missiles. Do that by a date certain and have it verified by independent inspectors. And then the alternative, if you're not willing to do that, is that Israel and the United States will destroy that nuclear enterprise. That in so many words is what the president has intended. That's not what began at the meeting last Saturday by his envoy, and that since has been corrected. I mean, what I have said publicly as late as this morning here in America, the next meeting should be a meeting and demanding from the Iranians an implementation plan with a milestone schedule by a date certain to do what I just said. Show us how you're going to go do that. Just so our audience understands, in the 10 years since Obama made the deal to let Iran have enriched uranium at civilian nuclear power levels, which would eventually be able to grow over time in the sunset clauses, when he allowed that to happen, 10 years later from that, Iran's not the same country. They could go to a secret site tomorrow after they gave up all their enrichment and their current sites and rapidly develop enriched uranium to weapons grade in a matter of weeks.
But General, I'm just worried. You mentioned that special envoy who bungled the messages, actually, took Iran shopping back to America, really, Steve Witkoff. He was also involved in the ceasefire deal that's fallen apart between Hamas. He said that Hamas, they seem to be, decent people he could get on with. He thought that Putin was almost considered him a friend, and Putin is just stringing him along on Ukraine. And again, this guy goes back to the White House and says, all you need to do is give Putin 5 Ukrainian provinces and she'll be sweet. Now, the guy that you briefed on this, General Kellogg, who was the special envoy to Ukraine, argued against it. This Witkoff, he's a nut. I mean, how much longer can this guy be allowed to represent Trump before Trump looks like a laughingstock?
Yeah, well, it's been well reported in the United States, and Mr. Witkoff, most people who do know him and have a relationship with him thinks he's a pretty good guy. That's the first thing people tell you. But he doesn't have the experience to deal with these nation states on some complicated issues. I'm not disputing the fact that he likely was a very good negotiator dealing with business deals, but business deals are all about compromising to arrive at a position that is mutually beneficial to both. That is not what's involved here. I mean, Iran started proxy wars in the Middle East, and they're trying to destroy the state of Israel. The supreme leaders just said that yesterday. The president has fully supported Netanyahu on dealing with Hamas. They've gone back in there. They got a new chief of their IDF. He's applying a different strategy. He wants to occupy 4 different buffer zones in Gaza, not go in and do raids and then get out, occupy them, move all the people out, and kill as many Hamas as they can. They've got a different plan that they're executing, and they believe because it is so aggressive that Hamas will give up the hostages. When it comes to Russia, I certainly wish that General Kellogg was in charge of that team doing the negotiations. Because I say again, our negotiating there shouldn't be trying to facilitate some kind of a compromise between Russia and Ukraine, which is beneficial to both parties. Ukraine is an ally, a partner. We want something that's very favorable to them at the expense of Russia. That should be the objective. And Russia is isolated internationally. They have committed the war crimes. They have committed genocide. They have kidnapped thousands of children. They're right now, as we speak, conducting targeted airstrikes against civilian population. And we saw what happened there on Palm Sunday. We apply pressure to get what's favorable to Ukraine to end the war. And if that doesn't happen, then we upgun Ukraine. We slap the toughest sanctions that are possible on Russia to finally, once and for all, cripple their economy, because it's going to shut down people from buying their oil and go after their central banking system. I do wish that Kellogg was back in there, but that decision has been made and that train has left the station. We are where we are here. I'm still hopeful, though, Andrew, and for the sake of your audience, that this thing is going to work out, because I think Putin will play into our hands, because he is a bully, he is a thug, he's a hard-nosed, and he's trying to negotiate to get concessions that'll make Ukraine vulnerable. And what I'm advocating here, publicly and privately, it is time now to get tough with Putin, begin the crippling sanctions, and upgun Ukraine. That will get his attention.